Welcome to the Lion Zone, where you learn to be a lion and not the prey in a world of hungry jackals and vicious wolves. I'm your host, Steve Johann. For more about me, visit stevejohann.com. You can also find me on Substack under stevejohann.substack.com. I've got another great show lined up for you, a really cool show. I'm going to learn a lot today, and so are you. But before I introduce my guest, I want to start things off with a song to set the stage for today's show, and here we go.
I'm worried about the world that we live in. I'm worried by all the confusion. I wonder about the lies I've been reading. I wonder where this madness is leading. Is this a road going nowhere, or is someone leading us somewhere? I can't believe we're here for no reason. There must be something we can believe in. Blinded by science, I'm on the run. I'm not an appliance, so don't turn me on. What's in the future? Has it just begun? Blinded by science, I'm on the run.
All right. Elana, do you know who that is?
No, who is that?
Well,
It's not Todd Rundgren, is it?
no, of all people, it was Lou Graham, and that was actually Foreigner, and it's called Blinded by Science. It says, Blinded by Science, I'm on the run. Blinded by Science, where do I belong? What's in the future? It has it all began. Blinded by Science, I'm on the run. I'm worried about the world that we live in. I'm worried about all the confusion. I wonder about the lies I've been reading. I wonder where this madness is leading. Is this a road going nowhere, or is someone leading us somewhere? I can't believe we're here for no reason. There must be something we can believe in. Blinded by Science, I'm on the run. I'm not an appliance, so don't turn me on. What is the future? Has it just begun? Blinded by Science, I'm on the run. And that came off the Head Games album, and I'm like, oh my goodness, who would have thought that way back in the 70s that they would be writing about something that we will be talking about today? And to let everybody know, my guest is Elana Freeland. Elana is a writer, lecturer, storyteller, teacher who researches and writes on the deep state issues, including the stories of survivors of MK Ultra, ritual abuse, and invasive electromagnetic weapons. She is best known for her works Under an Ionized Sky, from Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown, about the resurrection of the Strategic Defense Initiative, SDI, Star Wars, Space Fence, Geoengineering and Transhumanism, which covers synthetic biology and transhumanism. Elana's journey into researching and writing began about writing about our skies began when she moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico, to get her master's degree at St. John's College. There she met independent scientist Clifford Carnicom, who was engaged in collecting and measuring what has been falling from chemical jet trails over northern New Mexico since the mid-1990s. Under Clifford's microscope, Elana watched the Morgellons pathogen suck the iron out of her red blood cells, and that was when her life was changed forever. Since then, she has been sounding the alarm through her work, which you can find at elanafreeland.com. So welcome to the show, Elana.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
You bet. So I started doing some work on your website, and you're on Crow 777. I listened to him, and I've noticed you've been on a lot of other shows, and I'm glad to have you on my show. So Elana, tell me a little bit about your journey, because I just kind of summed it up there in 2 minutes, but there must have been something that brought you into even a mindset of even talking to Clifford, much less being interested in pursuing that. So tell me about your story of how things, progress, whether it's childhood or onward, that progressed you down this pathway to where you're at today.
Yes, I definitely see the biography as being incredibly powerful and in having to do with what you're doing. And I was raised in an Eastern European neighborhood in Detroit, Michigan, for about 8 years. My grandparents took care of me while my mother worked. And I hung out with all the kids in the neighborhood, and we all spoke English, but all the adults did not. They only spoke, well, we had Hungarians, Ukrainians, Russians. We had my godparents, Nana and Nasha, were Hungarian. My grandparents were Romanian. We all had our culture. We went to places that were rented, I suppose, and we danced, and we ate our food. And I really didn't enter America per se until I was 10 years old. And by then I was very much an Eastern European little girl. I spoke Romanian first, but learned English very quickly, very easily. I started to read very young because my grandmother would get nervous when she got the letters from the government. She was afraid they would send her back to Romania, where Ceausescu was the dictator, and she had already left a child and with her parents there, and whom she would probably never see again. So for me, the neighborhood was the best place possible because it was community. I really experienced community. But when
Yes.
I hit America, that was all gone. And I was shocked. I was in shock for years. I was a sort of a prodigy. So I had skipped 2 grades. I was younger than everybody in my class. Back then they skipped bright kids. And I became very shy and introverted. And I watched a lot in order to bring myself into the culture. So in a way, I'm a European. I was raised as a European, and the school system in the 50s, which is how old I am, I'm a 60s generation person. In the 50s, the education was quite classical still, was quite liberal arts, the 7 liberal arts. And I had a very good education, sometimes in private schools, sometimes in public. So I had a really wide range that led me into the 60s. When I was 16 in high school, a senior, I was sent to, I was elected by 800 and so girls to attend Girls Nation in Washington, D.C. That was the last year of John Kennedy's presidency. That was in August. 4 months later, he would be dead. And I was in the Rose Garden with him, as was Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton talked about it a lot. I didn't know him, but he was there. The Boys Nation was there as well. It was a very high point of my life. Kennedy actually pointed me out and said how much I looked like his wife then. I did very much look like Jackie Kennedy. And I became sort of a celebrity overnight for, 5 minutes of fame. Went back to my state and gave a talk on my day with John Kennedy. Then when he was assassinated a few months later, I was re-invited by these civic organizations that had paid for my trip. And I had the initiation of learning to give a speech in front of a room of sobbing, crying Americans. So
Wow.
for me, it was that was the awakening moment. And it was from there that then when I hit the 60s, a few years later, out of university, then I was very interested in American culture and what had happened to American culture, because certainly the history I had read of America's beginnings did not match what I was seeing at all. I saw freedoms going. I saw huge conglomerates like Boeing running everything. I saw the militarization. I saw the Vietnam. I saw the kids all just felt very disenfranchised, and I became quite an activist. and I've never stopped. I've never stopped. And you know, a lot of people from the 60s took too many drugs or grew up, as somebody said to me. Yeah, I grew up, you know, indicating I hadn't, because I still had ideals. And it taught me to live on the edge, I would say, on the perimeter of the society, and to become an acute observer. That's what my childhood and being an immigrant kid, or the kid of immigrants, did for me. And I've been comfortable there ever since. I'm not an institution person. I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm very critical of the policies of this country, because I know what it could be. And so when I met Clifford, he's a lot like I am. He's not an immigrant, but he has those same ideals I have. We struck it very quickly. And at a breakfast, I hadn't foreseen that I would be talking to him about this. I had no idea of what was going on in the sky at that time. I've done a little bit of research because I was writing a series dedicated to John Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and Robert Kennedy, called Sub Rosa America, A Deep State History. And I was researching everything in the basement of America, everything. The lone gunman, the CIA, all that stuff. I was deep. I had many files, and one of them was chemtrails, and I had no idea that it was connected to. I didn't even know the word geoengineering at that point. I knew the word HARP, the acronym, High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project, but I had no idea that I would be writing 4 books on it, which I'm just now finishing the 4th book, because each book is a process of discovery. And, you know, when you're dealing with national security issues, and geoengineering is very classified, be under no illusion. This is not just simple weather engineering. This is way more than that. When it's classified, you have to go in search on the web, you know, and we didn't have the web when I started, really. But I got very good through my master's degree in historiography at St. John's, I got very good at research. So I have been able to put together a picture of what this really is, and have had quite a bit of influence in Europe, more than here, because here Americans just don't read anymore. They don't think very well either. So that's what happened. Clifford and I are still in touch. We're both still involved in, now we're looking at the blood and what is being dropped from the aerosols. We are breathing in, we are ingesting it in our food supply. And that has a lot to do with what ends up in our blood. And then we had the event a few years ago, right, of the COVID-19 inoculations. And so I've brought the two things together now, is how far I've come. We started out with Morgellons being dropped from the sky long ago, and Morgellons was a very badly named name for a pathogen that actually was probably the first foray, and that would have been when the CIA was still in charge of HARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project up in Gakona, Alaska. The CIA was in charge of it first, and then in came the Air Force and the Navy and Raytheon and Lockheed Martin, etc. So it's always been a weapon system. We just didn't know, and I didn't know, that we were the object, the human being, that they wanted a transhuman model. And that came out of the secret space program. So I go into all that in all the books, actually, probably not the first one. The first one, I go into the extreme weather events and prove how these were created by geoengineers and how they do it and that sort of thing. But I eventually have ended up going back to the Morgellons and then coming forward again to the jabs and what's in the jabs, and that the blood is under assault, just as the atmosphere has been under assault. in order to make the planet a very unfriendly place for the natural God-given human being. So this is what I do. And I had no idea that I would be devoting, well, just, I have no private life. I gave up a private life years ago. So I do this all the time, and I want to awaken people, and I've awakened a lot, but not enough, of course.
Well, I'm looking forward. We're going to have you give a presentation here in a minute. And I'm also looking forward to exploring a lot of different subjects under the heading of what we're talking about today, and we will, and as well as ways to fight back on a personal basis, how to bolster your health, how to bolster your body, your mental wellness, your spiritual wellness. There are people out there that are doing that. I mean, it's amazing how many people are rising up and going, hey, if we just do this and this and this, we can transform our bodies and make them better. So there is a movement afoot, which I believe is a counter movement to what we're seeing with what you're going to be discussing. So we'll get into that a little later. But when you were talking about weather manipulation, you can go back in the 60s and watch a cartoon put out by Disney about how they're going to manipulate the weather. And they cloud seed and they do this and they call up and they do boop, 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 and they avert, and they're showing you they averted the tornado or whatever it was offshore. I mean, this has been in our brain, in front of our face for decades and decades. So this is not new. It's just that we thought, oh, this is just fantasy. This is Disney. So folks, it's not fantasy, it's real. So I'm going to go ahead and let you take over the controls and give your PowerPoint and then walk us through it,
Okay.
Elana.
All right. Okay, so I press my share screen.
Mm-hmm.
And then I go to this. Okay. And I think that's probably enough. This can all be made smaller. I remember
Oh, that looks good right now. If you want to do it that way, if you don't,
this.
you want to
Which way?
well, I mean, what you have right now is fine.
Okay. Just want to make sure I can see. Seems like there's something. No, that's fine. Okay. So, geoengineered synthetic biology. This is just an opening that I had for a slideshow I did at some talk that I've given. I'm going to go pretty quickly, just kind of go on cruise with me. Okay, there are two definitions that we'll be working with. Geoengineering, which is the intentional manipulation of global scale Earth systems. So if you have been misled by CBS or NBC and the newspapers, this is the definition of geoengineering that is more accurate than the solar radiation management, for example. So intentional manipulation of global scale Earth systems. So this is far more than cloud seeding. Just remember that. And then the idea of fifth generation warfare. It is a warfare, and we are very engaged now in fifth generation warfare. It's a warfare conducted primarily through non-kinetic military action. That means not missiles, not bombs, not guns, not the old idea of warfare that we have been pre-programmed with for many, many decades. No, this is different. This is electromagnetic and chemical and nanotechnology. These are the three perpetrators being used, certainly in the geoengineering. So, all right, non-kinetic military action. It includes social engineering, misinformation, disinformation, cyber attacks, emerging artificial intelligence, etc. So it's a very different kind of warfare. I want you to be aware of this, that this was passed, this was under President Obama. He changed the Smith-Mundt Act of 1948, which assured Americans that when they were reading the newspaper at that time, it wouldn't have been much TV, that they were not being lied to, that they were not being propagandized, that propaganda and lies were for foreign operations, not domestic. Well, this was changed in 2012 by President Obama, and it is now called MISO, the Military Information Support and Operations. But it basically means that it's legal, yes, legal, for these agencies to lie to us and propagate propaganda.
Yep.
So let's be clear about MISO. It's not just a soup. Okay, I'm not going to go here. Jack Cruz is a doctor. He's actually a neurosurgeon. And Jack says, very brilliant man, he who controls the electromagnetic spectrum on Earth controls the living things on the surface of the planet.
Mm.
And for those who don't remember what the electromagnetic spectrum is, here's an example. There are many, many types. I like this one. Notice the visible range that we have where the little rainbow is. And it simply means that our natural 5 or 6 perhaps senses cannot go where many of our technologies now can go, as far as sensory input and data and measurement and that sort of thing. So this seems unfair. You know, I've certainly had my moments, because it's very hard for us to imagine as a faculty, not imagine like the Mickey Mouse in Fantasia, but to imagine as a tool of intelligence, to imagine invisible waves that we are now inundated by. They're coming at us and through our bodies and through our brains at all frequencies, at all times of day, even when we're sleeping. It's moving always, always, always. And so we need to really come to terms with the fact that we are living in what will be remembered, I think, as an electromagnetic era. And here you see that over here we have the megahertz, gigahertz. These are radio waves. We get into the microwaves, which are 3 to 30 gigahertz. Then comes infrared, ultraviolet, X-rays, gamma rays. So out here we have what we're very familiar with, ionizing radiation. We think of the atomic bomb. We think of that as being the really serious, the thermo, the heat kind of radiation. What we don't take seriously enough, because of how we're being programmed by those who don't want us to think about it, is the non-ionizing radiation. Because all of this, your iPhone, see, I don't own an iPhone. Why don't I own it? Because it's a weapon system created by the military. And I simply do not want it near me. So that's an example. I have a nice landline here, which has a very low radiation. For my computer, there's high radiation, my laptop. So I keep devices around it that ameliorate the radiation that I'm taking in. I'm very acutely aware of electromagnetism around me in my living space and particularly my sleeping space. I do not sleep with anything electromagnetic in the room with me. I have a digital clock that is battery run, and then I have the 60 hertz wiring in the walls, which I can't do anything about. And I sleep on a cotton mattress. I have no metal in the bed. These are things I do to take care of myself, because it's true that it's sometimes, because of what I write and what I speak about, I appear to be targeted by electromagnetic weapons by people who don't want me to be talking the way I am or writing the way I am, however that goes. But basically, I have made my environment very healthy, and you too can do that. So just to show you, this is how much we can see right here. So we're going to have to go by, yes, our experts, But as we know now, after the 3 to 4 years we've had with the jab, a lot of our experts cannot be trusted because they too lie, they too propagandize. So we're going to have to really sort of develop a discernment that Paul talks about in, I can't remember if it's in Galatians or Romans or Corinthians or where, but he talks about this quality of soul, which is discernment. So I'm recommending to everyone, whatever it takes to develop that discernment, you're going to need it, and you need it right now.
You have to buy my new book when it comes out. That's a reorientation of the deception code, how to have a true seeker's guide to discernment. I explain how to do it within my book, full of lots of knowledge, but I'm rewriting that right now. So you can just wait till that comes out.
Okay. All right, then this is important. The next thing, this is something, a list that Clifford Carnicom came up with in 2005. He has a film that you can get for free on the internet called Aerosol Crimes. It's still very good. It has not been dated. And he did an excellent, simple job of explaining this technology. But notice, it isn't just weather that is at stake with geoengineering. And the weather is being geoengineered. Would I say that all the weather is being engineered? Yes, I would. I would say that, because this is all AI run, and it requires careful calibration of many electromagnetic instruments and tools on the Earth and above the Earth. So I explain that in my books. The second operation that this geoengineering is doing is chemical and electromagnetic, and the two do go together, very much so. And that would be our entire atmosphere, because ever since HAARP was able to take control over the ionosphere, which is starts about 25 miles above us and goes all the way up to the magnetosphere. These are big bodies of energy that are around our planet. And the ionosphere was the first thing that was controlled. And now we have CERN and other types of instruments that can definitely control the magnetosphere. So the third operation is the planetary geophysical operations. I include fires there, that the big fires that we've seen lately, such as in California and Maui. These are all geoengineered fires. And, and I spend time explaining how that's done. Then the directed energy warfare operations, that is very surprising, because it has expanded greatly, not in so much in massive weapons in space, like plasma weapons, etc. But in the fact that because we have so many energy systems around, we therefore have many electromagnetic fields that can be tapped into and utilized for energy for a variety of weapons that target individuals, regions, areas, ethnic groups. Oh yes, it's all happening right now. Then the fifth is surveillance neural operations. That means controlling your brain from satellite, not just being able to surveil to where they can see a postage stamp down here hundreds of miles below, but also where they can get the right evoked potential for brains and take control over the brains. That's a done deal now. The sixth operation, I've included quite a few things in that, but biological transhumanism. And for the biological, I would say synthetic biology and transhumanism go together. And that's what I'm spending this sixth book and this fourth book on geoengineering. And then I'll be writing a book for the publisher Inner Traditions on synthetic biology next. And that both of these books are, in a way, cutting in half the big giant book I published in 2021 called Geoengineered Transhumanism. And then the seventh, which is the most fascinating to people because there's so much disinformation around it, and that is the detection and obscuration of exotic propulsion systems. In other words, UFOs, and that whole topic that's been completely lied about by the intelligence agencies. But the technology is not a lie. We've had that technology since we brought the Operation Paperclip Nazis over to the United States. So that's sort of my map that I use in order to make my way through geoengineering to figure out what it's about, what the operation is about, and to see where it fits in with this these 7 operations. Here's the famous HAARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project, acres and acres of phased array antennas that whose claim to fame is that you can make them all form one very, very powerful beam. And that's exactly how they eventually obtained control over the ionosphere. The first book that ever came out on this was by Dr. Nick Begich and Gene Manning. Angels Don't Play This Harp, Advances in Tesla Technology. That came out in '95. And
Wow.
that was the first time I had a military helicopter over my house. That I had been reading that book, which was it was kind of hard to get. And the day before, and then I had this military helicopter over my house for about 5 minutes. Here is a lot of people think I'm kidding when I say that we control the entire ionosphere, which is a massive body of plasma around the outside of the physical Earth. But here's an idea of it. I won't play the whole thing, but this tells you.
Thank you to Olga this morning. Very interesting. I wanted to ask a couple questions here about the high frequency active auroral research program. Several of you at the table have a little bit of a piece here. You know, this is located up in Alaska. It's currently funded by the Air Force Research Lab. It was formerly funded by the Office of Naval Research. One of the prime customers is DARPA, which is currently running experiments at the facilities there. So questions to several of you this morning. I'm told by the president of the University of Alaska that the Air Force has pulled its support for the facility, and they're taking steps to demolish it and take it down this summer. He's making the argument that there is other opportunities for us, and is trying to find a path where the university might be able to take title to the facility. I'd like to start with you, Dr. Prabhakar. I understand that a lot of folks here on the committee probably don't understand what HAARP does. I think most Alaskans don't really know what HAARP does or why the agency is involved in it. So a very brief explanation and then a more direct question. Would you be disappointed or would you lose something if HAARP were to go away?
Senator Murkowski, as I think you know, one of our programs has been using the HAARP facility for the research that it's pursuing. And my understanding is that we did get value out of that interaction. But the P and DARPA is projects, and we are not in the business of doing the same thing forever. And so very naturally, as we conclude that work, we're going to move on to other topics. So it's not an ongoing need for DARPA, despite the fact that we had actually gotten some good value out of that infrastructure in the past.
Understood. Then to Dr. Walker and Mr. Schaefer, then, Dr. Walker, your agency is currently running the facility. I mentioned that it's our understanding through the president of you that plans are to move forward and demolish the facility this summer. So the question to you is that accurate? Can you explain why? And then perhaps to both you and Mr. Schaefer, is there any benefit in exploring a potential relationship with the University of Alaska to perhaps take over?
The Air Force has gotten great value out of Harkin. But they have amazing manuscript, and it's a great number of students that have finished our work that we've been doing up there. We're moving on to other ways of managing manuscript, which the Harkin really designed to do with the inject energy grounds to be able to control it. But that work has been completed. The Air Force has maintained this.
So there you go. You heard it from the horse's mouth, straight from the Air Force. The control is not partial, the control is total. To control the ionosphere, that comes straight out of the secret space program, in which the idea is to, according to a Russian astrophysicist, is to control full spectrum dominance control over planet Earth. The next step is full spectrum dominance over our star, which is our sun. The next is to control our planetary system, our solar system. And then finally, believe it or not, to control the galaxy. Now, this is not a fantasy or some sort of wet dream. No, this is real. And this is what is being followed. And what I believe the transhuman desire to have another model of the human being that can get beyond the Van Allen belts, which are highly radiation between here and the moon, to get beyond that. So far, human beings have not been able to go beyond these radiation belts, no matter what you're told about the moonshot in 1969.
No, they never know. I've done enough research to know we never went there. So
No.
I think, no, do you need to do some more presentation? I want you to keep doing it, and then we'll come back and kind of revisit some of this.
Okay. So you keep it in mind, because I probably won't, but I wanted you to see that this is the overriding event. This is not about necessarily the sun, solar flares, protecting us with with this cloud cover that these chemicals and electromagnetism are making over the earth, so that the sun is always sort of vague and somewhere up there, other than a few days here and there. No, this is what it's from. This is from the secret space program. Is what geoengineering serves as an idea of control over the planet. And when I say full spectrum dominance, that is a military doctrine called the doctrine of full spectrum dominance. And I showed you the spectrum. There it is. To control the entire spectrum, not just our little human bit, but the whole thing. This is what it's about, okay? So if you don't frame the story well, you tend to think, oh yeah, this is just about having, making it rain in Iran. That is so minor to the geoengineering that's going on. And we need to be told the truth, and we have been nothing but lied to all along.
So okay. I will ask you a question. I have heard the term full spectrum dominance. I remember doing some research a number of years ago on this whole aspect. And it seems to me that the mind who thinks this is not a healthy mind. These minds are very unhealthy. These are a collective group of beings who are very, very, very unhealthy. I mean, totally corrupted, because the concept of we can't have freedom, we can't have people having a free will, is so freaking scary to these people that they have to create methodologies to manipulate the world around them because they have no ability to accept that we have the ability to be free agents. It scares the living. Well, I don't know if they're even living, but what's your thought on that? Do you think I'm kind of hitting it on it, that this is what propels so much of this is not based in love. It's not based in faith. This is all based in a fear mindset. I mean, a demonically fearful mindset. What's your idea on that?
Well, the first thing I would say is this is the kind of military mind that is very common now.
Yes.
And it's a psychopathic or sociopathic mindset. And is it
Yes.
human is a question that we possibly should ask now that we have someone in Washington, D.C. who wears a mask, who's supposedly, you know, a
Yep.
high level elected quote unquote person. We have doubles
Yep.
who look like people. We have so many of these things now that, again, we're back to that problem of this spiritual discernment to tell the good from the evil, yes, but mainly, for example, the standing military. Do we really need a standing military?
No.
Well, it's kind of late for that idea. I was just looking at the very first book that came out about the idea that the planet Earth was a war model, was by Rosalie Bertell. And she's been dead several years. She died in 2012. She was an epidemiologist. She was also a gray nun and a fabulous woman. And she wrote the first book, this one, The Latest Weapon of War, Planet Earth, The Latest Weapon of War, a critical study into the military and the environment. Now, I was just sort of looking through it while I was waiting to come on your show. And it's so dated now, because she's actually thinking, well, we could just stop that military now. Well, we can't now. There's no way.
No,
No,
they're the Borg. It is literally the Borg. They
just
are
like the board. Yeah.
It is
And so
their-
here's what Rosalie said years ago, but so able to see what was coming. The ability of the HARP / Space Lab / rocket combination to deliver very large amounts of energy comparable to a nuclear bomb anywhere on Earth via laser and particle beams is frightening. Now, I just want people to know that this is what HARP actually is. It's a tremendous weapon system. So when that Air Force guy was talking about Senator Murkowski were talking about, oh, well, it's going to go away. The Air Force is saying they're going to dismantle it this summer. That's all lies. There is no way they're ever going to dismantle this, because this ionospheric heater called HARP, wonderful acronym, is very powerful weapon system. For a weapon system called, and you can look it up on the internet, you'll find it, interferometry. That's the name of the weapon system. And it has to do with targeting beams of energy all over a target area that, well, you saw it in 9/11. You saw it in operation. And I think the reason it was used there was to scare the pants off of the world. This is what it looks like. This is what interferometry looks like, where you get an ionospheric heater, say in Tromsø, Norway. They've got a big one there. So they're sending their beam out over the target area according to, you know, latitude, longitude, etc. And then over here is HARP, both in the northern latitude, and HARP also sending its beam over the target area. Now for the jet, the so-called jet in the 9/11, they would have needed a third beam. And I believe that beam was coming from Brookhaven out on Long Island. And they can make a three-dimensional hologram. Looks absolutely real. And so this is the type of weapon. So when I hear people being scared by the nuclear bomb and thinking, they use that again in this latest Ukrainian war. The idea of a nuclear bomb. No, they're not going to use nuclear bombs.
No.
There's too much damage done by them, for one thing. No, they'll use this kind of, and this is a different type. See this word scalar. This is a scalar beam. These are scalar beams. And this has to do with these tremendous electromagnetic beams that can be made to make the Hiroshima bomb look like child's play. So that's what we're facing, and that's what Rosalie's talking about here. She has studied the physics, she knows what it can do, and that's what I'm writing about. But what I'm doing is I'm taking it all the way to all the things that this can do, and there are quite a few. Now here's the jet stream. The jet stream is entirely controlled now, and the weather is taken off the South Pacific down here. Real weather systems, real weather. And it's by laser, it's moved up the coast. It leaves California high and dry. It leaves Oregon high and dry, and they drag it up here to my state where I am. I live in I call it the cauldron. This is where they manufacture the weather for all this. They manufacture it where I am, 200 miles off coast here. Because the jet stream is parked, this piece here is actually parked over Vancouver Island, north of me. So control of the jet stream, control of the ionosphere, virtual control of the magnetosphere. I mean, we're doing pretty good in the idea of full spectrum dominance over planet Earth. And then this is just something you need to know is happening. This is already a done deal. Note, this is from 2017.
Scientists have discovered a human-made barrier around Earth, protected against the natural particle radiation in space. They believe the bubble was formed by very low-frequency wavelengths, or VLFs. VLFs have been found to interact with the particles in space, affecting how and where they move. VLFs are used for radio communications, including with submarines, because they can penetrate deep into the ocean. The waves can also travel far into the
If you can
environment.
turn up your volume to make that work better,
I'm
it's great.
reading more about how VLF transmissions help shape our space environment. We learn more about this.
Okay, so that is true. There is a ring forming around the Earth now that is used for what they blithely call communications. But it's ultra low frequency, ULF, and it's made of the metals. And, I haven't talked about that yet. There's heavy metals being dropped, barium, strontium, chromium, lithium, all the metals that I name in the books. These are all essential to the ionization and keeping it ionized of our atmosphere. So a lot of these, when they're dropped in the stratosphere by the jets, they will then start, dissipating out into the cloud cover, but also many of them end up in the circular motion of our planet's rotation, and they all sort of drop down to right around the equator and are forming this ring that is also being fed because it's a very valuable ring. I maintain that for my second book, and you didn't name all my books, by the way, you named the Under an Ionized Sky, which is a very important book because I lay out all the parts that I possibly know about that have to do with the space fence. And the space fence patents are owned by Lockheed Martin. It's a real thing. You probably think of it as the smart grid. And the smart grid goes all the way from space, like this ring around the planet, down to all the radar installations, the cell towers, the so-called cell towers, they're actually microwave towers, the cell phones that, many people insist on having, the fracking wells, believe it or not. Yes, the fracking wells that go down sometimes miles into the earth. The wind farms, you may think of that as, oh, how lovely, green energy. They're pulling energy from wind. No, those are all part of the infrastructure of the space fence that we are already plugged into. And it has a top and it has a bottom, and we're plugged in. Even if you fix your environment like I have, where I don't have too much electromagnetic waves hitting and bumping into my bones and things, you are still plugged in, because we just have not paid attention to what they've been doing.
So I'm thinking I'm going to frame this differently. We need pipes in the ground. We need oil. We need natural gas. We need water. We need all sorts of infrastructure, which has got pipes. We're talking metallic items. They're in the ground. Then we have metallic items in the air, in our surroundings, our entire planet.
And in our lungs and our blood
Yeah,
and our brains.
So we have those, and then we have all the particulates that they've been spewing out through the spraying, at the top, and ultimately they're covering the planet with more metallic. And then by running, well, I call them satelloons, they can have these satelloons all over the planet that are running, Starlink. Ooh, Starlink. Yeah, that's satelloons. Those are basically what are called satellites, but they're tethered on a balloon. They're way up in the stratosphere. And they can utilize this, working with their HARP, working with their other tools, and they can pull all these together. So they can tap into, what you're saying is they can tap into all the mechanical, all the metallic properties, and that's including us now. And they can run waves, they can run electricity, and it can actually cause disruption. Am I correct on this?
Yeah, the word you're lacking is resonance.
Okay, thank you. Yes, resonance.
What it does is, it's all, because from HARP, from the ionospheric heaters, or some of the satellites, you can produce a certain frequency.
Yes.
You're blasting the earth with.
Yes.
It's all sort of calibrated together to work together. What is up in space is working with the calibration of say the wind farms or the fracking wells or whatever, and it's all resonating at a certain frequency that our system, our beautiful, wonderful human bodies, one of the pluses and minuses is our resonance, because it's our resonance that enables us to experience so much of this planet. And yet it's also a resonance that is very fragile and will begin to it's like you go into a rock concert, and pretty soon your whole body is resonating to those beats. So that's what happens with these metals, is they're on a nano scale. Very important. A nano, for people who don't know, is 1/1000th of a meter. Very, very tiny. But we have all these nanos in us because we breathe them from what is being aerosoled onto us for the last 25 years.
Yeah, this is not something new.
25 years they have been able to maintain a deniability and lies and propaganda, and we have just gone along with it. So now it's in our bodies, and that's behind a lot of the cancers that happen, a lot of the weakening of the immune system, the autoimmune symptoms
Dementia,
that people are having.
Parkinson's, all the
All
brain,
of that.
all that stuff that's
It's
in the
coming
brain.
from the heavy metals in our systems. That's why a lot of people who are aware of this technology now are going to get the heavy metals out of their systems, however you choose to do that. There are ways to do it, but it has to be done as it has to be done all the time, because you're breathing in this stuff every day, and they're laying these trails every day. To keep this ionized for all of their communications, as they call them, because we're one of their communications. They want us in this, right? We're in it.
Well, and what's interesting when you say they, they're part of it too, because they breathe the same air, they live in the same environment. That's what I said. These are, as you said earlier, these are psychopathic individuals. I call them leeches. They will leech, a leech will literally kill its host and kill itself in the process. And these
Well,
people, I believe they're in their power hungry. They are anyway. Well, maybe that's
so, yeah, I mean, we could go on and on with that, but let me just give you my formula for that. All
okay.
right, so, I have a lot of people, I've given talks at UFO conferences, I'll go. I always tell them up front, I'm not gonna talk about aliens and stuff, because I don't go there. But I can talk about the atmosphere, and I think you wanna know about the atmosphere. You wanna know what is going on in our atmosphere. It's like a huge beaker in a chemical lab, for one thing, with lots of electromagnetic zaps. So is that we have a law, and I think it's true. It says something like nature abhors a vacuum.
Yes.
Nature abhors a vacuum. So you give up your humanity, maybe incrementally, maybe all in one huge satanic rite. I don't know. But you give up your humanity, and now there's a vacancy in your soul.
Yes.
And now the entities that are all around us, but remember, we can't see them because of that
Yes. It's
narrow human, right? So they will enter
yes, they
and
will.
begin to operate through that human personality.
Yep.
And nobody knows. It's like when the people began to say after the jab that their relatives and their friends had changed, I was all ears to hear what happened. What were they like? How were they different? This idea of a vacuum in your humanity, in your soul, it will be filled,
Yes.
but perhaps by entities that you didn't sign on for, and you don't even know exist. You don't, So that's how I look at that.
Thank you. Thank you. You
Yeah. So
I'm
let's go on
100%
to
that.
I wanted you
Please.
to see the next one. I'm going to go real fast now because you've got all the basics. Now, this is, we're all familiar with this. But please notice that this is not coming out of the combustion chamber only. What you see in this jet is you see 6 trails. Now, in some of them, they have 8 or 10. It's coming out the wings as well. So the fact that some people think it's just detritus from the fuel is not true. Not true at all. Okay, it's something different. Okay, then this is another way of looking at it. Here we are with frequencies. Again, the resonance. These pulses are coming. It's all being pulsed, and
I
we're
can see
picking it up.
I just want to interrupt. Folks, when you look up in the skies, you can see those clouds. I live in the Northwest. You do too. We live in the Pacific Northwest, and I watch them puff them, and then I watch them disperse literally with those lines. I see that exactly dispersion. That's exactly what I see in the Puget Sound all the time.
To make clear that, I can give a whole talk on it, but just very basically, the clouds you see in the sky now are not the clouds of yesteryear. They are not moisture and particulates and ice crystals. They are not.
Yep.
These are plasma clouds. They
Yep.
are created by laser and other electromagnetic beams that are turning through electromagnetics, are heating up particulates and maybe a tiny bit of moisture at some point, but they're basically dry clouds. They are dry, and they are not the clouds of yesteryear. This is not the natural world that I was born into.
Me neither. Yep.
So let's be clear there. Okay, then quickly, sounding rocket, beautiful sunset. All I think is sounding rocket launches. Here's one with lithium in it that has that color, that sort of
Oh,
golden
you mean like when
white.
quote SpaceX shoots off, you see that stuff just filling up the skies.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. Yep.
That's right. And then here is dusty plasma. And dusty plasma is interesting because this is smart dust, but smart dust is the man-made kind. But it was from dusty plasma, and they began to see what it was doing and what they could do with it, that they modeled the smart dust on the old dusty plasma, just to make clear that, you know, these may be people who think they're creating things, but they're actually learning everything from nature first and then changing it. Another one, these are all these MEMS, GEMS, and NEMS. These are all very tiny, smart dust sensors that are picking up data, and that data is going to supercomputers. And that's another reason for this. This is a huge moneymaker, this program. And they don't really care that you and I are breathing it, because it ends up in your bodies and it'll serve the transhuman shift anyway. And then I love what Julian Assange said. He called it evil dust, intelligent evil dust.
We are eminent in point. And so if you collect those together, you can effectively triangulate someone's activities and behavior. And I don't think by chopping out many of them or adding kind of staff cover, that you can make that much of a difference. And increasingly it's less. And in terms of the Internet of Things, there's research prototypes now that I assume are being used by intelligence agencies. A very small Earth kind of surface that you can just put in paper or put paint on the wall that are powered by the GSM station. And they operate as the GSM radio wave passes through them. Because they're not powerful, very small amount of time to do. So obviously that tendency is going to continue. It's not like the Internet of Things, it's if you like, intelligent evil dust scattered everywhere, like confetti in everything. So,
Yes, that's how it is. So let's unpack what Julian just said. Intelligent evil dust. It's dropped in the stratosphere, and then it filters down through the atmosphere. We're breathing it. It's going in, pregnant mothers to their fetus and the whole thing. And then it settles. And then sometimes they're going to do aerosols over a city, say, for example, and they're going to tell you that the aerosol is actually for mosquitoes, or to protect people from mosquitoes.
I just read an article and that said, oh, these Hercules planes are going to be used for spraying for pesticides around military bases, and they may also do it around the cities in that location.
Right, that's exactly it. And so they're dropping these sensors, these nano sensors, and the nano sensors are programmed in a way that they will then go into the cement of the city, into the walls of the city, into all the parts, so that the sensors are picking up constant data. They're in touch with your cell phone. They're in touch with your brain. They're pulling thoughts from your brain. Everything is going into these sensors. If I were to say what nano bot is the most common that we deal with, it would be the nano sensors. They are constantly picking up data. So that just to show you how this is already done. I'm not talking about the future here. No. This is a done deal. Okay, so this was Julian. Okay, then this is interesting. You may see an event like this in the sky where something is moving on its own. It seems. I mean, this is plasma. So picture a guy on a laptop in Colorado. I'm just imagining. And he's playing around with what's actually over Colorado Springs. And he's moving bits of plasma that's already up there. He's able to have control over that. So,
Oh, and
you
then
know
somebody
how-
sees that and they can say, oh, I saw a UFO. I saw something that looked like it was living, when in reality, it's a manipulation of the atmosphere up there.
it's someone sitting at a laptop. This is
Yes.
what we need to start realizing is when you see all the bells and whistles up in the sky, and maybe the UFOs, which they're going to produce, I would think.
It's fakery.
But it's plasma physics is what
No,
it
no,
is.
no. But what I'm saying is they're using,
No, I know what you're saying, but
Yeah.
I'm correcting you because we need to really
okay,
get
plasma
caught
physics.
up
Yes,
with
thank you.
where we are now, where we
Thank you.
are scientifically. They're 50 to 100 years ahead of anything you might study in college today. Any college, even MIT, doesn't matter. They have their own scientists. They're called Jasons, the Jasons group. If you don't know about that, you better look them up. Okay, so here, now this is important to me, but I still have time, don't I? I've gone an hour. We have another hour, right?
Oh, yeah, you're fine.
Okay, all right. So I want to honor this friend of mine who now is dead, Jamie Lee, a videographer.
Oh, I know Jamie Lee. Yes, he had Plain Truth.
Yes, and he's dead now.
No kidding. I
He
remember.
died from, you know what? From being targeted for 2 years. They basically killed him. So I happened to be involved in
Wow.
his death in the sense that I was following his demise. He stopped eating. And this was only a month ago, perhaps, about a month ago. So bless his heart. All right,
Wow.
so this is one of the greatest things he did, for me anyway. He has a series of videos called Paradise Lost, and this was all about the fires of California, 2017, 2018, and about, you know, the complete decimation of Paradise, California. So this video, number 51, is exceedingly important because he's interviewing a nano materials scientist who's retired. And there are things the scientists can't talk about. He also will not give us his name. I spent an hour and a half on the phone with him. He knows his stuff. This is how some of the nanotechnology is being used in those fires that you may have wondered about. There are two things to wonder about those geoengineered fires. First is the ignition, and the ignition is coming from space.
Yes.
It's coming from probably a laser.
Yep.
Or a LiDAR. A LiDAR is a light laser. And it's coming down usually in a blue pipe sort of light. So that's one thing. The other thing is, how were they able to decide on the ground what house will burn and what house won't? And how were they able to make that fire without igniting it all over again from the air, to just carry that fire from one place to another and skip this place and skip that place and go to that? They were able to do it by these phalanxes of nanobots. And they look like, when I first saw this video, I thought I was looking at embers. I thought the wind was blowing. Jamie Lee was there that day when he was at that fire. And he said there was no wind, but the news reports kept reporting there was wind. No, and they can create their own wind. I know that, but in this case, those embers are actually phalanxes, as in Roman armies. I'm using that wonderful word, phalanx, of nanobots with programming, the programmers running them from, I assume, laptops somewhere, running them to go to this and crawl up this wall and start this fire and go down this road and pass all these other places and then go to this special place and ignite that fire. That's what we're seeing here. And Jamie is talking with the guy. I'll go right here.
Is that the incinerator? Is that the one that actually activates the bots?
So
There they are.
Looking at the footage of not only first-hand footage for myself and also through my own 2 eyes of the fire in Northern California. And you can see that there's multiple deployments of different aspects that were used in what I would say every fire that's been since probably 2017 or even 2016.
Every fire.
And the same signature all the way up until now. I think I'd like to think that the hand was a little overplayed with this last fire, and I really would like to think people would wake up from this and see that this truly is an attack and it's not anything else but that. But there's a huge so there's a huge problem with that, because now you have on the other side, the programming with that blue light, whether it be an on-off switch to this particular bot, it's also could be programmed into the minds to have people just completely disregard what's going on. And that's a scary thought, because if you look at the way the light works with the eyes and even the Wi-Fi itself, it's so easy to program a mind or make you feel someone think a specific way with the right technology.
Right,
And the technology is
Wi-Fi, so people know, is a two-way communication device. They use the
Absolutely.
flicker rate of the light that going on and off at a very high intensity to program you or read anything in your home. I mean, this is Alexa on steroids. Every LED light is a Wi-Fi machine that's recording, adjusting frequency modulations. I mean, how many people have LEDs? How many stores have LEDs? Everybody, right?
Everyone does, yeah. And so being in the industry, I had, when LEDs first came out, 20 years ago, when I was helping manufacturing the very small plastic standard at the time, they were growing these crystalline or the actual chips that they used to use light emitting diodes they polarize them or send electricity through, if you want to call it, just electricity, send a lot of current through a light emitting diode in one direction, and it transmits light at whatever frequency you deem, depending on what voltage you're trying to send that at. And then now, if you turn that around and you receive or you emit light, you'll actually into that light emitting diode. It'll actually produce electricity. So at a zero decade, so you can literally transmit that energy, light beam, across and reflect it through the atmosphere or anywhere you want, and have, if let's say you send it 1 watt downstream, you're going to receive 1 watt downstream. So there's
no loss. When you say that there's no loss of whatever you're transferring, right?
Absolutely not. There's no loss. There's no resistance. And it is instant, and that's what makes it so the human body is so susceptible to it, because you can't see it. You don't recognize it in the reality that you're in. And so it's easily dismissed, even though it's right in front of your face. When you see the forming embers that people think that's fire, it's not. It's literally
programmable matter.
Right.
So here let me quote Arthur C. Clarke and Isaac Asimov and Arthur C. Clarke. You're talking about the sci-fi writers. Arthur C. Clarke helped give the vision to NASA. Quote, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And it says right here, this is from engineering.com. Programmable matter is essentially what it sounds like. Matter that can change its physical properties, such as its shape and optical characteristics, based on a user's input. This definition ranges from something as simple as liquid crystals, which you're talking about, which can be altered by the application of an electric field, to something as sci-fi as the shape-shifting liquid metal T1000 from the Terminator franchise.
So let me stop there. That's the tech. This is the technology that we're dealing with. And do you see, can you imagine that this is why geoengineering, I call these geoengineered fires, is there, yes, they are ignited from space, but also he just explained how you could use Li-Fi or LEDs in order to make all of this happen down on the, I mean, it's an incredible weapon system is what I'm saying. So when we talk about that part of geoengineering are these directed energy weapons, they're using fire as a directed energy weapon. So this idea that warfare now, because it's electromagnetic and chemical, they mentioned crystals. We have to really change our whole way of looking at fifth generational warfare. This is fifth generational warfare. So, the idea of people, don't ever come up to me, don't anybody ever come up to me and say, well, I never liked science in high school. You know what? I don't have any sympathy for that. I have no sympathy whatsoever for ignorance, willful ignorance. We live in a technological era. It's time to wake up and start doing your homework. Because we need to understand all of this and people's deaths, their deaths. We owe them that, if nothing else, in this warfare we're engaged in. So thank you, Jamie Lee, I say, and bless his name, bless him.
I started watching him when the Paradise Fires, and there's another gal that I watch. She's out of California, and there's actually a couple of them that have been really.
You mean Deborah Tavares?
Deborah Tavares, and then also
Deborah went to visit Jamie, and she's the one who told me about his disposition. I owe her. Okay, I'm going to go ahead.
Please.
Okay, as above, so below. Hermes Trismegistus. This is a very old thing. This also has to do with full spectrum dominance. So really quickly, we're moving, this is extremely important. We're moving from molecular biology, as if that isn't enough, all of that stuff about geoengineering. We're at the same time moving from molecular biology to digital bioengineering. Okay, that's what synthetic biology is all about. What has happened is that genetics has become a branch of information technology. It is pure information. It's digital information. It's precisely the kind of information that can be translated digit for digit, byte for byte into any other kind of information and translated back again. This is a major revolution. I suppose it's probably the major revolution in the whole history of our understanding of ourselves, by Richard Dawkins, evolutionary biologist. All right, so we're moving from molecular to digital. An example for you, just really quickly. This idea of long COVID, even from people who don't believe that there was any COVID. That's kind of amusing, darkly amusing. Long COVID. You can send a frequency now. You don't need a virus. You don't need a molecule. You can send the frequency of a certain state of pathology or illness, symptoms, by means of 5G and 6G, targeting that person, targeting that hospital, targeting that region, whatever, and people will have symptoms. People will feel sick. I had it happen to me on a book tour. They hit me so hard. I couldn't keep any food down. I was projectile vomiting, and I was sleeping all the time before talks that I had to give, because I had Yeah, I had 16 talks to give on this tour. So I got to experience it, and I knew what they were doing, and I knew how they were doing it. But I couldn't save myself from it. It was as though I was in my body, but my body wasn't mine. It wouldn't do what I said. So I now know this is true. So if you get sick, you may not really be sick, is what I'm saying. You might be picking up a transmission of symptoms, believe it or not. This is how they're going to make piles of money off of us.
And I was going to
How
say,
they're going to do it.
you get the symptoms, you scurry off to the lab rat motel, they fill you full of whatever, they just cha-chink, cha-chink, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 100,000. They poison you with more drugs, and all because you felt like you had something or
Yes,
something else.
you got afraid. You got afraid. And that's why I'm telling you this, everybody, is that the fear is your worst enemy.
So the
fear
people,
is your worst enemy.
okay, so the people during the COVID narrative that I know, that I called up and I says, I'm not going along with this agenda. Are you? Nope, 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 nope. We soldiered along just fine. We had a very positive attitude. We were like, okay, we see where we're at. This is the world we live in.
Mhm.
And oh, somebody might have got a cold or whatever, but the fact is, we just pulled together. We took care of each other. We looked out for each other, and we kept living. But those who isolated themselves, those who believed everything, they went along with the narrative to the point of getting the, you know what, their lives were miserable. They cloistered, they stayed home, they ceased to do their normal life. And again, it was based on fear.
Mhm.
Fear.
Yes, and remember this, because I think the important thing I'm saying is that you may have symptoms, but symptoms are not disease.
Thank you.
See, symptoms are simply symptoms.
Yes.
And so really start looking into that. And of course, I've been, I'm very much along the lines of Andrew Kaufman, MD, and
Yep.
Tom
Cowan, Dr.
Tom Cowan, MD, there is no virus. And of course, I studied Chinese medicine when I was in my 20s. I thought I was going to be a Chinese medical doctor. And I learned early that there is no virus. So I haven't been to a Western doctor since I was 13. I'm 77. All my health is great, except when they target me. Okay, let's go on here.
Please.
All right, environmental fibers. This is important. You find these from the chemical trails. Then you can look at them under a microscope. Here's another one. These fibers have organs in them that will develop in certain environments. Here's a filament in the skin. This is one of the filaments at a distance. It's like Morgellons. This was Jan Smith, bless her heart. She died of Morgellons. This was early on. That's a golden head on one of the fibers. Very strange.
Oh my gosh, that's not like a worm. This is like manufactured.
No, it's synthetic. It's completely synthetic, and it's electromagnetic. That's what the head is. It's picking up the electromagnetism, because Morgellons was always picking up electromagnetics. And that's really, if my message says anything today, it's that this electromagnetic chemical combination with the nanotech is our major problem. Okay, so here's more. It looks almost like a circuit board. I'll show you that. It's amazing. Quantum dot tagging. I'm in a live blood analysis group that's out of Australia. A lot of the guys are picking up under their very sophisticated microscopes, dark field, etc. All sorts of things, including lots and lots of quantum dots. And then let's see. Skip that. Well, this is important to see. Synthetic organisms and living machines, a new category that they're adding to the kingdoms and domains of living organisms. They're moving us on a conveyor belt toward synthetic. Fullerene. This is from Tony Pantalaresco, the wonderful Canadian herbalist who's helped so many people with various symptoms. From David Nixon, this is his dark field microscope, which takes wild photos of these entities that are being created in our bodies, in our blood. They can self-assemble once they get into, they start out with the fiber, and then they get inside and they self-assemble into these other forms and shapes. And here's my last one. This one was one of the first ones I saw. This is what I mean by what they're doing is we've got computer parts in us too, and they're finding it in the blood of people who have been vaxxed and people who have not been vaxxed. So once again, we're confronted with this delivery system coming from the sky for the synthetic biology and the transhumanism, and also the vax being the other part of it that I feel is primarily inserting a lot of computer parts like this into our bodies directly through the needle, but also is primarily inserting the software by which the 5G, 6G system will be able to tell that system exactly what to do. So that's how far I've come in geoengineering, which again, if you go by the newspapers or CBS, you're going to hear that it's all about solar radiation management. It's about a lot more, well, so much more. And we need to know about this so that we can still have a human species left, a God-produced human species, human 1.0, I call it.
You know,
the human 2.0 is underway now. The assembly line began with the jabs, and it is ongoing now.
it's you can take that screen out. We can go one back to normal screen if you just get out of the share.
Okay.
I have some questions. So I do believe, I mean, you've just opened up. I have been watching documentaries, individuals like yourself talking about this. And I've kind of thought, okay, it's out there. And I'm one of those people, never studied science much. So, but my dad was a chemical engineer. My son is a mechanical engineer. My father-in-law is an engineer. And I can think and I can use my logic and I can discern. So that's where I've been, is trying to, first of all, just letting people know that we've been lied to since our birth. That's my first salvo with my book, is to help people understand we've been attacked. We're being attacked. You have taken it to how we're being attacked. We're being attacked on the scale unbelievable. Now, a question I have is this. I got to understand that this isn't just the United States. This has got to be other superpowers that are wading into this same pool, doing the same thing. Am I correct on that?
It all began with NATO. Yes, it began in the United States, but it's NATO countries that I have primarily studied in order to understand what happens. I discovered a document that has to be signed by any nation that wants to be in NATO. And in that document is the proviso that says you will agree to aerosols over your country if you are part of NATO. And if you're not agreeing to that, you can't join NATO. So that's how important it is. And that's what led me to see that this was completely about transhumanism.
So if you've got the NATO countries versus the non-NATO countries, so then the NATO countries they're aerosoling, they're doing this to their own selves.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to ask me, how do they take care of themselves? You know, they have the antidotes. You know that. Of course they do. They're living in, they have the air filters that, you know, the best that money can buy. They have ways of living underground. They have the med beds. They have, you know, I mean, where shall I stop? They can take care of their own. And the ones who know, but their minions, generally speaking, know nothing.
I was going to say, when I did in my book, I have a chart. It's a command and control chart, basically. And I talk about the people at the top know what's going on. And as you go further down the chain of command, they literally are just following orders.
Okay.
They have no clue. They're being taught this. Oh, this is why you're doing it. So the guy, you know, the idiot guy who gets in the plane and starts spraying, I talked to somebody else and they said, oh, they do a rotation of the individuals, the Air Force guys, the guys that are up there. They do a rotation. They do so many of them, and then they take them off, and then they ship them out somewhere else. So they're not talking to each other. They just say, oh, you've got to go do this. You're spraying for pesticides. You're spraying for whatever it is. And so the low on the cannon fodder individuals, they have no clue. They're just cannon fodder. But all the way up the chain of command, and literally, it was that way with the COVID narrative. You saw that with the COVID narrative. You saw it and then you have what I call the profiteers. And they're the ones who say, hey, let's get the money while we can get the money. And that's the congressmen, the senators who get paid off to buy all this stuff off because they are being paid off and they're thinking short term, as do the corporations that are making this stuff. They're thinking short term. But the guys at the top, they're not. They're thinking long term, and they're just using.
But regarding the pilots, I want to correct something, I think, is that first of all, they're rarely pilots now.
You think they're all drones?
Even in the commercial jets, which for a long time were engaged because those guys had to sign non-disclosure agreements. And, you know, it was very dangerous if they would speak out. But now they're doing pretty much like the drones. And also often the controls over the switches that control the chemicals, that Big Pharma, by the way, is involved.
Yes.
Big Pharma has prepared for this flight. Those will be handled from the ground. Those will not be given to so the pilots know next to nothing. And most pilots that I have talked to or that I have heard about or read, they don't believe me. Their programming is completely
okay.
Programming.
Okay. Okay, so I know I asked the last time we flew in to SeaTac, it was a very smooth landing, and I joked with them. I says, "Was that you or computer?" He goes, "Computer."
That's right.
So the fact is, they can fly these planes live wire all day long. They don't have to have pilots up there.
No.
I mean, the 9/11 event, we know that those were not piloted planes. They were live wired. They were remote controlled RC planes, just on a large scale. So what you're saying, and I can see it now, is that the thousands of planes that are being flown up there can all literally be remote control.
That's right.
So we're talking industrialized trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars over I call it the fake space program, because the real money is going into this.
I don't think so. I don't think you're right on that. I think the space program is very important to them. And
no. When I say
this is a handmaiden.
What I'm saying is they're not going to go to the moon. I don't believe they'll ever go to the moon.
Oh, they don't
But
care.
they're using the money. What I'm saying, they're using the money to do exactly what
I don't know.
doing.
I don't go there. It's
Okay.
not my interest. Another question?
Okay, so
Is there anything else?
all branches of the military are involved in this. Am I correct?
Yes, or they at least all know. The one that I'm not sure about, of course, is the newest one, right? The Space Force. I'm not sure about them because Trump was so involved in it. And one thing I noticed during his 4 years is nobody briefed him on this program. They kept this from him.
So I know that Ronald Reagan launched the Space Force.
SDI, he launched the SDI program with George Bush and Dick Cheney at his behest. I mean,
Do you
Ronald
think
Reagan,
Ronald Reagan had a clue that this?
no, I think he was mind controlled during his assassination attempt. And that GHWB and Big Dick Cheney ran his whole regime.
Yeah, I'm, yeah, the same guys that were there at 9/11.
Absolutely.
So
Practicing Satanists, by the way. Absolutely.
yeah, they're all they're.
I
It
wouldn't
comes
say
back,
all. I don't use the word all or not.
well, when I
don't like
when
those.
no, I didn't mean to say that. What I'm saying is these people who make these decisions are not operating, like I said earlier, from a humanity standpoint. They're operating from a much darker place.
But I'm not sure they're the ones making the decisions. I haven't decided that yet.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, there's layers and there's layers.
Oh,
Like, how
I don't
many
think
shadow governments are there, right?
so. I've got some questions, so that we'll keep it on the straight and narrow here. Let's talk about the mind manipulation that comes into this, because we've seen that the geoengineering is being used. That was phenomenal footage of the fires being controlled and manipulated by the nanobots. But let's talk about the overall. You went through MK Ultra. You know the
No,
primitive.
no, I didn't. I didn't go
No.
through MK Ultra. I studied MK Ultra.
Thank you. Thank you. You went through studying MK Ultra back in the day, the primitive version.
No, no, I only did that a few years ago. I did 10 years of studying MK Ultra. And I know a lot of MK Ultras, that's true. And I've helped some write their stories. But the MK Ultra comes of age in this electromagnetic era, because now they can pretty much program anyone from a distance. And they don't need to bring them into a clinic setting, hypnotize them. You don't need hypnosis from close up. The pain induction, drugs, all of that can be done from a distance. And now we have basically, in my opinion, a society that is pretty much entirely mind controlled. And I'm not sure if it's, I know it's being done electromagnetically. It's being done through the iPhone for one, the TV for another. There can be any type of device that it has a two-way. It can be used for programming. Aerosols can be put into homes without anyone's knowledge. Everything can be done. Everything that can be done is now being done in a hidden way. So in the town I live in, since the thing 4 years ago, I have to say that just about everyone I meet appears to be programmed to me. It's like you have a human sort of radar, right? Your heart can pick up a real human being. And I'm basically surrounded by, liberals for one thing, but it's also more serious than that, in that they seem so on automatic. It's so on automatic. It's very sad to me.
So when you were out doing your tour and speaking, and you were getting sick, and you were going through there, explain to me, in your best knowledge, how would they be able to make you sick, and would that have been done through someone that was tracking you, you know, like in the old days you see, or movies, you see someone that's being followed and they can do you know, they can use directed using a gun, not a gun, but a whatever kind of gun, microwave gun. How would they do that now? In your mind, how do you think that that was carried out?
Well, that one in particular, because I was traveling too, I assume it was satellite. And as far as satellite having my brain code, yes, they have very sophisticated EEGs in some of those satellites that can go right down and pick up your frequency, which is, they call it the evoked potential. That's the name of it. Or they can even get your DNA, whichever one. And I assumed that they had that, and then they would know my itinerary of where I was giving a talk. And they would pretty much leave me alone if I didn't eat any food. But as soon as I tried to eat something, up it came. So I stopped eating. That was partly why I was so weak, is I didn't eat for seven or so days. So, but I slept a lot. If you're asking me if for example, I'm thinking of particularly in a church, that they allow people to give talks there. In that environment, was there anyone in the audience or off somewhere directing one of those weapons you're talking about at me? No, I don't think so. I think they can use my nanotech that's already in me and get all those guys going with their frequencies. And then, you know, you just feel like hell. You just feel like you're hardly there. And that's how I think it happened. I don't
Okay.
think there was anybody in the church that was doing that to me.
Right. So now let's step back. So the fellas who are directing this, is this so that they just have a bunch of what? Back that up. Do they want a bunch of compliant, do whatever they want you to do individuals that they can have around them, much like a slave class? I mean, remember, throughout history, slaves have existed, and the slave class were second-class citizens. They weren't even citizens; they were just
We're already a slave class.
Well, I do know that. To a
Yeah.
certain degree, we are a slave class.
Oh, yes.
To the elitists, they are some demigods. They see themselves as demigods, and we are just their fodder. We're just their slaves.
Right. But if you mean people like me, or you mean me, I think I have developed a system, and I'm not sure I'm accurate, because you're kind of flying solo in this stuff right now. There's nothing I can get to, you know, call an expert to.
No,
And
no, I'm the same way. I'm
Yeah,
trying to bring
right.
people on
I
like
don't
you.
do clairvoyance. I don't do
No,
any of that
me
stuff.
neither.
So what I've decided is they only respect people like me. They don't respect people who just go along with the program. Those are useless eaters to them. They don't care about them. But they find someone like me where there's no medical records on me. There's none on any computer. There's none. How can that be? You know, and I'm 77 years old and everything works. And, you know, I mean, they kind of send me messages is how I look at it. Or maybe I'm just choosing to look at it that way, make it intelligible to myself. They send me messages of don't go this way. And in that case, what it was, I think, was Bobby Kennedy said that he would drop in on one of my talks. And I think they were weakening me to look really bad when that happened. He ended up not coming, which was fine. But I called a Native American friend of mine and begged her to help me because I just didn't have any energy. And boy, she delivered, because that was one of the best talks I did, was the one Bobby was supposed to be at. So I think they wanted me to see, this is it. You want to know what the molecular changed into the digital looks like? And you're the target? This is it, Elana. Here it is. This is what you've been talking about. That's what I choose to believe, that they want to see what my reaction is. I mean, but shoot, even when I got home, I flew home and canceled 2 talks, laid on the couch for 5 days, sipping chicken soup, organic chicken soup. I mean, I was just toast. And then finally, the morning of the 5th day, I just popped up like everything was fine. It wasn't like when you're really sick and you kind of get a little better incrementally. No, I just popped up the 5th day because they pulled the leash off of me, the electromagnetic leash. That's what they had me on. And it was connected to me somehow. I couldn't tell you where, but I was controlled. And they could have done anything to me. They could have killed me. Yeah, I know that. They can kill me anytime. I understand that. But I believe they are interested in people who do things, who really make an effort. They're kind of interested in those people. And they might, try to break those people as well. Try to get them to commit suicide. Try to, I've heard all kinds of stories. But the useless eaters, they're not.
So in my studies, even in the silent weapon for quiet wars, the granddaddy of master plans, it says right in their text that they want a certain percentage to not go along with the agenda. They want to have that percentage of people who are saying, no, I'm not buying into your program here. We're going to fight you. We're going to move forward.
And they want to study those people.
And that's probably, yeah,
They want to
because
study those people. Yeah. What makes them like that?
what makes them different? What makes that 20% out there that didn't go along with the last program scenario? Why did they, and I point out, it's from every walk of life. We're not talking about people that are they're all No, I'm talking people from PhDs all the way down to plumbers, down to janitors are going, I'm not buying into this. So then they're like, okay, what is it about that? So when we think, I'm going to take it back a step. When we talked about the fires, and we just saw the fires over in Hawaii, and again, people were literally reporting as things were happening. That is the one thing about where we're at technology-wise. People can report. And again, it did the exact same thing that took place in Paradise. We saw the exact same thing that actually just took place in Texas on the cattle ranches.
Mm-hmm. They're all geoengineered.
And then we're also seeing, 26 different processing plants for food that went up in flames in the last couple of years.
Right.
So these are not, and now people are saying, well, the same thing could very well be done with these barges who, if you happen to look at the latest Economist magazine, the predictive copy, it shows, and I was watching somebody the other day, and he says, I didn't see this first time around, but there's the barge and there's the stacked containers on top of it. So I showed that actually in my book. I showed you the one that was 2019 or whatever. All they're telling their friends, hey, we're going to manipulate the weather. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Are you prepared? Be ready. So
But they're telling us too, right?
they're telling us because
they love to do that. They want you to know. I mean, people say, oh, Elana, you're telling all these truths. How come you're still alive? Well, they want you to know because how are you going to feel? You're going to feel helpless is how you're going to feel.
Are you familiar with Michael Hoffman?
Oh, yeah, I know Michael. He's a good friend.
Yeah, he talks about that. He says revelation of method is for one reason. It's to dehumanize you.
Yeah, that's right. No, his books are great. Yeah, his book, the psychological whatever it's called.
Here, oh,
Well, you've got Twilight, right?
I've got Secret
That's it.
Societies and
Yeah.
Psychological Warfare.
That is a book I read a couple of decades ago, and it had a tremendous influence on me. I'm so grateful. Yeah, and I've been in touch with him just because we both do the same kind of thing on that, even though I'm in geoengineering. But yeah, I'm so grateful to him. Everybody should read that book, by the way. And it's not that long.
So now let's I've heard tell that one of the things that people have learned is much like in the Matrix, that because we are full of energy, that they can actually harvest the energy fields from our bodies.
Yes.
As you're going by the quote towers or other mechanisms that are out there, there actually can be pulling energy off of us.
Mhm, mhm.
Have you researched on that?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, no, that goes without saying. And your aura, which we all have, the aura, to protect it. I think this is the purpose of organized religion, actually, is to help us and oversee us, particularly with the rites, the baptism rite, the marriage rite, the whatever rite, to make sure that you are contained and protected by these rights. Right now, a lot of these institutions are being overturned because they've been weakened, and materialism has taken its toll. But that's okay, because now we need to stand more less as children of God and more as adults before God.
Thank you. Thank you. That the whole scriptures is dedicated to being, you're not just supposed to be little children sucking on milk anymore. You're supposed to be
Right.
mature, handling the word accurately. Well, now you understand. I was watching something the other night, and the fact is, light and light penetrating the eye and the pineal gland, and there's much, much, much more being said with and what you're saying is the rights, the protective rights that go along when you take communion. You're communing. You're in a body of believers communing together, one with the Lord, one with each other. That's a powerful, powerful way to protect yourself and
Well, it's kind
preserve
of vertical
yourself.
and horizontal.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And that is what the faith communities are all about. And where
Yeah.
people get lost is when they start making a business out of it and they forget that, no, this is a powerful force that God structured here. I wanted to ask you a couple other questions before we're going. When do you believe the dumbing down of the population really began? I have an idea. John Taylor Gatto and his works.
Yeah, yes, I've read his too. I would say, and I have studied this, I would say it is when what was the name of it? It would be certainly by 1980 when the Troika, I call it the Troika, the Reagan, Cheney, George H.W. Bush came into power. They pretty much overturned education. I would say definitely up to 1973, it was good because I underwent it as an immigrant kid. And I was, like I said, I was in public schools sometimes and sometimes in private schools. And the education was solid and you really learned how to think. But there were no electronics, remember? There were no electronics.
No, there wasn't. It
Yeah.
was all
That's a huge factor, because it's the electronics that have weakened us. Our nervous system, that's why I'm a student of Rudolf Steiner. A lot of people think Rudolf Steiner is just an occultist, but he is a Christian occultist. He knew who Christ was. And he has been so important to me and so protective with the ability of my ability to think beyond being an intellectual. I've always been an intellectual, but now I think with my heart. I think all the way up here. So I think that we really need to, yes, become adults. We need models for that, not just people who send us to the Bible or send us to whatever, catechisms and things. No, it's time to really, really look at evil in the face and call upon those deep forces that indicate the human being as something very unique, very unique.
Very unique.
And we have yet to begin to call upon the consciousness that a human being can muster. And I am trying to exemplify that desire of mine, my deep desire to do that since childhood. Because, you know, the greatest thing I wanted as a little girl was to experience God while I was conscious, not in my sleep, not just through a book, but something where it really, and I had that when I turned 25. I had the full experience. So since then, I have been on the trail of exemplifying a Christian walk as I see it.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go by somebody's church or somebody's denomination or whatever. All that's too complicated for me. I have a direct relationship with Christ, and that is what gives me the power and the courage to do what I'm doing right now. That's the only reason I'm doing what I'm doing right now, and I'm just a very happy person.
You know, it's interesting you said that. My own life, I came to Christ in 1980, and it's been a love affair with him ever since. And I've been growing and growing, and I've been very focused on the walk side, the scripture side, and I was like the traditional, hey, Republican, Democrat, bad, Republican, good thing for decades. And but I've always searched, and when I found something that when truth comes to me, I search it, I research it, and then it hits me hard, and I say I have to accept it, and then I reject what I used to believe in. And so I've always gone through that stages in my own.
It's a growth process.
The
It's
growth.
a growth. Yeah.
I will not deny truth for what it is. It
That's what it
sets you
should be.
free.
It should
So
be.
when God woke me up, I had an epiphany. I woke up on the day that Trump was announced that he had won the candidacy. I literally woke up in the morning, and God said in my head, turn off all politics shows, turn off the news. I don't want you to deal with any of that anymore. Okay. And then I came to work and watched a video I was putting on YouTube to listen to some music while I was doing my work. And there was a 9/11 video on the right. And I said, what's that about? I clicked it and my life changed. And God set me now on a trajectory. And I've went through that since that time. I wrote a book. I'm now rewriting it. And then I finally launched this show not that long ago with the intent of bringing people like yourself and others that are connected to expand. And then I have been availing myself to many, many, many people that I call pioneers.
Well, it's very valuable what you do. Could I, before I forget,
Yes,
since
please.
time is almost done,
Yes,
how to get my books?
please.
So
Where do people? I want they go to. I've got your Elana Freeland is one place. ElanaFreeland.com, correct?
Yeah.
And where else?
What I recommend people do if they want the big fat book, I call it, the Geoengineered Transhumanism. It has 650 pages. That's why I call it the big fat book. The 60 colored illustrations. If you want that, you're going to have to pay $15 more than you would other places. But you can get it at the Rudolph Steiner bookstore in Seattle, Washington. It's a friend of mine. He runs this little bookstore out of his backyard, and he handles all the books that I have written, and that includes the Chemtrails Heart and the Full Spectrum Dominance of Planet Earth. That's the first one. Then that's 2014, and then the one you mentioned, Under an Ionized Sky, From Chemtrails to Space Fence Lockdown, that's 2018. And then the Geoengineered Transhumanism, 2021. And then there's another series I wrote about America, and it's I think it's probably the greatest thing I've written on a literary level. And that is the Sub Rosa America series, A Deep State History. And those are dedicated to John Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and Robert Kennedy. In order to tell my story, it's in a fiction base. It has characters, it has plot, the whole thing. But mostly it has the history that the CIA has buried as to how all of this has been controlled since the end of World War II. Anyway, that all those books are available at the Rudolf Steiner bookstore. I like to help this guy, sell his books too, but mainly it's the color illustrations that are there.
I will put I'll look that up and I'll put it on the descriptor of this video so people can do that. And it was interesting when I did find when I went into the truther world, and I started looking up and I said, oh my gosh, it was like, I forget which website I was reading, and it was talking about the 9/11 community. And I'm like, community, click, Seattle. Third place books. Oh, wow. Third place books. One of those unique little hangouts where everybody, even Paul McCartney, when he came through town, went and spoke at third place books. Little hole in the wall over in Lake Forest. But it's an interesting little place for a lot of interesting people. And I went, oh, I want to meet over there. I never end up doing it because I think that's when COVID hit. But you probably have been to third place books.
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay. But that's where all the 9/11 truthers would hang out. They'd say, all right, we're meeting on blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, this is cool. And then you find out there is people up here in the Northwest, like ourselves, that are, we just don't go along with the, the agenda. But I want to, before we do leave, I do want to say this with NATO. I've done enough research on NATO to understand that after World War II, those allying powers sat down, and even those that we thought were enemies sat down and said, here's some boundaries. After 1953, I think it was 53 or 55, they put the Antarctic and North Pole treaties in place. You and I cannot travel to the North Pole. We cannot travel to the Antarctic, period. You can go,
Right.
well, I know somebody went down to Antarctica. I go, you went to the equivalent of Edmonds Dock at the ferry. And you said you went to Antarctica. You didn't go to the United States. You went to the Edmonds Dock in Edmonds, Washington. That's how much you saw of Antarctica. You don't have a clue anything about it. And so I do know that there's reasons that they've done this.
Well, I know there's reasons, but I don't think you're going to like them.
Well, I'm just saying.
Raytheon runs all of Antarctica. Raytheon. Raytheon
Wow.
is like criminal city.
It is.
CIA synonym. Oh, yeah.
Oh, they also own, I found out they also own Granger air conditioners.
Oh, Raytheon runs Tucson. No, don't get me started on Raytheon
know.
and Lockheed Martin. They're the top two arms dealers in the world. So, okay, well, that's all I have for you.
No, we could go on, but I thank you so much for coming on. And again, I want you to go to ElanaFreeland.com. She's got a huge amount of information there. Purchase her books. And thank you so much for coming on with me, Elana. This has been wonderful.
There's one more thing.
Yes.
I post on social media every day and I comment, and I think they're quite valuable many times. And that is at two places. Facebook has left me one site. It's the kind of site you have to ask my permission to join. EMF Planetary Engineering is the name of the site on Facebook. And
Hold on. EMF
Planetary Engineering.
Okay.
And I'll let everybody in. And then the second place is gab.com because it's free. And that one is called Geoengineered Transhumanism. And interestingly, when I got hacked, somebody made a duplicate of that site and does something completely different from it. So you have to press the home button in order to make sure you stay on my site once you're on it. So anyway, that I do the same thing at both sites. It's a mirror reflection. And I think people would appreciate it.
So I'm going to put those in the description, but I just want to double check on Facebook. It's EMF Planetary Engineering, and on gab.com, it's Geoengineering
Geoengineered transhumanism. I may have said the wrong thing to you.
Transhumanism.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. Well, perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming
Yeah,
on.
thank you.
And folks, thank you very much for listening to the show. And don't forget to like the show, share it with all your friends. And until next time, remember, be a lion and not the prey.